Abidjan. Located on the coast of Western Africa, it is the largest city and the economic capital of Côte d'Ivoire. Modern, busy, going places, and growing. Côte d'Ivoire is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. This success is what draws people to the city. People from various villages and towns, and even people from outside the country. All come in search of opportunity. An eclectic mix of people. Many who can afford little, often striving for that elusive prize called success. The roads are filled beyond capacity. Color-coded taxis and few enforced traffic laws, creating massive jams of every vehicle imaginable and a need for patience. If people aren't stuck in traffic, they are likely selling something on the street. In the suburbs, there is a street market in every neighborhood. In addition to commerce, religion permeates city life. The call to prayer sounds regularly as those who practice Islam turn their thoughts heavenward. 4 out of 10 people in Côte d'Ivoire are Muslim. 3 out of 10 are Christian, and worth noting, there is no divisiveness in this religious mix. Christians are mostly Catholic. Their large sanctuaries open for Mass many times over the weekend. And among the Christians in Côte d'Ivoire, there is a small number of Seventh-day Adventists, about 10,000 members. And even though some worship in modern sanctuaries, most worship in a place like this one, in Abidjan, a suburb north of Abidjan. It is no wonder that Seventh-day Adventists find it difficult to grow their faith community.
Voilà, et donc un sabbat matin, je suis venu et j'ai vu que le groupe priait sous un préau, bon, sous un appartement, avec le parterre vraiment qui était difficile. Voilà, et donc l'espace était couvert d'herbes, disons c'était la brousse.
Daniel Ange and his wife had been attending the Dokui Adventist Church, one of only a couple more established congregations in Abidjan. When he moved to the area of Abidjan, he and his wife were surprised at what they found for church.
Même pour s'engenouiller, même pour faire la prière pastorale, c'était difficile. Voilà, les genoux même étaient fatigués, on était écorchés, tout ça, et on soupirait après cela. Et dans nos prières quotidiennes, on avait l'habitude de demander à Dieu jusqu'à quand on serait exaucé, que Dieu vienne pour régler ce problème-là.
Daniel determined they would not return to the Abidjan church, but in a dream, he was impressed not to go back to his former church. Instead, Daniel joined Abidjan and prayed for God's provision. This is where the story of Côte d'Ivoire merges with Maranatha. In 2018, the Adventist Church in Côte d'Ivoire asked for Maranatha's help in building places of worship. In early 2020, Maranatha volunteers arrived in Côte d'Ivoire to start building the Abidjan Church and a primary school, the only one in the neighborhood. There was much excitement generated by the visiting teams. However, the volunteers were forced home when the COVID-19 pandemic began shutting down international travel. Côte d'Ivoire, like every other country in the world, locked down. But Maranatha, working with the local government, found a way to keep our local workers on task. By September, the Abidjan Church and School campus were completed. There was a dedication and a great celebration in the community.
À la grâce de Dieu, comme si c'était une prophétie, des années après, nous avons ce beau bâtiment-là. Donc l'impression que nous avons tous ici, c'est que nous sommes joyeux. Et nous bénissons Dieu, nous lui disons merci pour sa grâce, n'est-ce pas, dans ce village. Et aujourd'hui, il faut dire que nous avons tous, l'église est vraiment heureuse. Voilà. Et nous bénissons la structure qui nous a aidé à avoir ce bâtiment qui est Maranatha.
Already, just months after completion, the church is making an impact and drawing people in.
Avec la musique chrétienne, et je suis allée là-bas pour voir ce qui s'est passé. Et c'est comme ça, j'ai vu anciens d'ici, j'ai su que c'est son église qui était là-bas. Et c'est comme ça, ils ont prêché sur le sabbat. Donc c'est ce qui m'a motivée à rester ici.
Donc je me suis dit, mais Dieu dit qu'il ne faut pas qu'on va faire ça. Donc Dieu dit, son jour qu'on doit l'adorer, c'est le samedi, on doit l'adorer. Et pourtant, on n'a jamais parlé que c'est le samedi qu'on doit adorer Dieu. Ce jour est un jour de sanctification. Voilà. Et vraiment, depuis, j'ai pris la parole de Dieu en main. En tout cas, la paix, l'angoisse que je ressentais avant ce n'est plus dans mon corps, quoi. J'ai la paix. Rien ne me fait plus très mal comme avant, ça me faisait mal, mon cœur saignait.
Et puis les paroles qu'on nous donnait, les conseils qu'on nous donnait aussi, là, moi, je vois aussi que c'était vrai. Parce qu'avant, moi, je n'ai pas connu la vérité comme ça.
As they come to our church or to our school, they discover that there is far more things that God is concerned and wants to help you. And so here we have this advantage. People come and when they attend our church or our school, they discover that we have something to say about health, about education. And then they start wondering, what a nice people, what a nice church. They are not only concerned with spiritual, religious things, but also they want to teach me how to live better.
The school is also open with 37 students from church and neighborhood families. While it's only been a few months, the parents are seeing remarkable progress. Sidonie's daughter has a learning disability. She was pleased when she learned her daughter would be welcome at the school.
Et quand je l'ai mis ici, à peine un mois, elle vient de commencer vraiment. En tout cas, je trouve que l'enfant a commencé à récupérer, elle progresse. En tout cas, ça va chez elle. Parce qu'il y a des choses, ce qui se passe à l'école ici, quand elle arrive à la maison, elle chante ce qu'on fait ici. En tout cas, elle dit tout ce qui se passe à l'église ici, à l'école ici. Elle chante, voilà, elle parle bien, elle commence à progresser, elle parle bien.
Vraiment, la petite, déjà, je vois la différence. Puisque déjà, quand elle arrive à la maison, elle dit bonjour maman, bonsoir les tantes. Ça me plaît déjà beaucoup chez elle. En tout cas, les maîtresses, elles sont gentilles, elles sont bien. Tu vois, quand tu viens, l'enfant, il t'accueille bien. Quand tu viens chercher l'enfant aussi, il t'accueille bien. Elles sont bien, elles sont gentilles, elles sont accueillantes même. Elles sont vraiment accueillantes, elles viennent toutes propres. Donc quand tu viens, l'enfant, toi-même, tu es content. Les salles sont tout en propre. La cour de l'école même est propre. Donc vraiment, ça c'est déjà bon même pour l'enfant.
Parce que ma fille, elle était capricieuse, amédante. Donc maintenant, quand elle vient ici, elle va à la maison, maman, avant de manger, on prie. On quitte à l'école, on se lave la main, on se repose, on chante. Je dis ok, merci. Si maman ne mange pas, prie d'abord. Je dis ok, j'ai compris.
So once the children come to learn here, they not only learn math, science, but they learn about God and also about how to serve God and how to serve others. And once they go home, this is the beauty. They start teaching the parents. They become teachers. They become missionaries there.
Elle adore beaucoup la parole de Dieu comme une adulte. Maman, avant de parler, maman, on ne parle pas comme ça. Avant de t'adresser à une personne, il faut faire la voix basse. On pardonne beaucoup. C'est que ça va.
Maranatha's church and school classroom construction is so important to the growth of the church here that leadership is already defining the church as pre-Maranatha and post-Maranatha. With only 10,000 members in a country of 25 million, education and improved infrastructure will be key to reaching Ivorians with the message of Jesus' soon return. Your support of Maranatha makes it possible for us to transform entire communities. The flourishing of Abbé Brocquois' church and school presents a picture of easy success, but the road to completing the project was anything but simple. In 2020, Côte d'Ivoire was slated to be an important destination for Maranatha volunteers, as there were several congregations waiting for a new church or a new school. In early March 2020, the entire world went into lockdown as we learned about the dangers of COVID-19. Volunteers could not travel internationally. Maranatha crews around the world temporarily closed shop.
In the beginning, it was kind of questionable what is going to happen, but when we realized that some countries are open for work, especially construction, We continued doing construction in most of the countries where we work. We made tremendous progress with our local workers that we have on ground.
In every country where Maranatha is building, there is a local crew that works diligently behind the scenes. They prepare job sites for the arrival of volunteers, assist volunteers during construction, and finish the projects after volunteers have gone home. Some of these crew members are from other countries, but they were unable to get home because of the pandemic.
When COVID hit, some of them were locked down, being able to work, but not be able to go home because of restrictions. So that was very hard on them, because usually they go home every 3-4 months. But I know some guys, they couldn't go back for 6, 7, 8 months, which is very hard.
So they stayed put, and in 2020, these crews became the hands and feet of Maranatha. After an initial shutdown, most of the countries allowed for some work, especially in rural areas where Maranatha had ongoing projects. The crews got back to work, including in Côte d'Ivoire. It was a sacrifice to be away from family, but for many on the crew, the work is more than a job. It is a mission. Carlos Morales is from Mexico. He has been working for Maranatha as part of the construction crew since 2017. He does it for 3 reasons: for the income, to travel, and to serve God.
I know that the mission also means to share the gospel. And in other areas, I cannot, for example, I cannot preach. And so when I build churches, I try to do my best. I try to construct a very nice church, because I know that in this place or in that place, we're going to worship God.
Avant d'entrer à Maranatha, j'avais fait une promesse à Dieu. S'il me permettait d'avoir un travail, je lui promettais de lui redonner, de lui remettre ma dîme. Et quand j'ai commencé le travail, il a exaucé ma prière. Donc, moi aussi, j'ai fait l'effort de respecter ma parole. Et donc, j'ai compris qu'avec Dieu, quand tu lui parles de quelque chose, même si on pense qu'il ne nous écoute pas, mais avec le temps, on comprend vraiment qu'il est toujours près de nous.
Thanks to the work of Jean-Marc, Carlos, and crew members around the world, in 2020, Maranatha completed 207 churches, multiple classrooms, and finished 424 water wells in India, Brazil, Kenya, and Zambia. And in Côte d'Ivoire, they finished up 2 churches and 5 classrooms, including Abbé Broquois. In spite of everything, the year was a success. God inspired people to keep going and giving to the mission.
When the COVID-19 thing hit back early this year, we had no idea as a country, as an organization, Maranatha, or as individuals on the board, how it would affect our operations. And I think our initial reaction was it was going to shut everything down, our donations were going to go down, and we were just going to kind of hold up and see what happened. But as the months went by, it became obvious that was not going to be the case. Yes, we could no longer travel internationally, but the giving continued to come in. In fact, it increased. There was feelings on the board that maybe we're being prepared for something great.
As 2020 began to wind down and countries opened back up, Maranatha started to hear from volunteers who wanted to serve overseas.
I felt all along that that's the lifeblood of Maranatha. We are people that spread the gospel to all countries of the world. So as time went by, I felt it was very important that a trip be put together somewhere.
The question was where? While the intensity of infections and deaths from the COVID-19 pandemic was dramatically increasing in the United States and other Western countries, Côte d'Ivoire had reported an infection rate of less than 0.1%. For Maranatha, Côte d'Ivoire, with an appropriate measure of safety precautions, became the single opportunity for volunteers to begin serving again internationally. The Volunteer Projects Department put together a mission trip, and in December 2020, a small team headed to Côte d'Ivoire to build a school in a place called Nyongan. When we come back, meet the people who stepped out in faith to serve under the most unusual conditions and what they learned while on the trip. After 9 months on hiatus, Maranatha launched the first international mission trip since the pandemic. In December 2020, volunteers arrived in Côte d'Ivoire. Their mission? To build an administration building and classrooms on the property of the Nyongan Adventist Church. Nyongan is a vibrant congregation with a drive to share the gospel with their community, and the plan is to do this through Christian education.
This is one of the most inhabited places in this country. And they have been requesting for many years to build a secondary school here because they have around some primary school, but the need is a secondary school. And as you can see, we have the church building behind me, and next to it, we are building now the office as well a classroom. Surely enough, we are trying to save these nice mango trees because mango are so sweet here in Abidjan. And then, as you see farther there is the toilet as well, a classroom. And in this plot here that you can see empty, we are planning to build 5 buildings with classrooms as well. And then we might have around 250, 300 children in this area. And that will be a blessing for the community as well for the church here in this area.
When we arrived, there was one layer of block on the slab, and we started building up the walls, which we had a pretty good crew, and just as a sense of accomplishment and also a vision for the future of seeing these kids having a place to get an education to further their place in life.
I was very impressed with our workers, particularly those that are here from Central America. These are men that have left their families for many, many months at a time. They're in a foreign country, and their attitude is so wonderful. And of course, when they see us, they get very excited to see somebody traveling to visit with them. But I say this time and time again to the board that the quality of construction and craftsmanship and the appearance of our job sites and our finished product are, I would put them up against anything that we build, even in the U.S.
In addition to Nyongan, the volunteers visited multiple communities to see the need for churches in Côte d'Ivoire. One area where the Adventist Church is growing is in the coastal village towns east of Abidjan. An abundance of seafood supports the local economy. The people who live here have constructed small churches from bamboo and other local materials. The volunteers felt privileged to build the first of 20 one-day churches that will dot this coastal region.
What a thrill to see a church building structure go up in one day. It's amazing to the people because around here the specialty is partially completed buildings. You see them everywhere. So to go there and do a building that can now be functional in one day is a thrilling sight, and to the local people is like, wow.
This beach is where church members who will receive the one-day church have been worshiping in a simple bamboo structure, an addition to the elder's house. They will move the structure to the new church and use it for Sabbath school classes. Eric, the elder at the Avagu Church, says that people are attracted to their church at first because, as he puts it, we are teaching things from the Bible, truths that they have never heard, and we are attentive to their needs.
Comme Jésus-Christ en a fait. Il est venu, il a apporté, il a prêché quelque chose qui est un peu différent de ce que les gens avaient entendu. Et lui aussi, il prenait du temps pour donner à manger, pour guérir les malades. Voilà, c'est ce que les gens veulent.
But even with biblical truths and a Christ-like presence, the shack of a church keeps people away.
Vous voyez, ce temple-là, il y a des autorités même qui ont du mal à venir. Ils savent que nous prêchons la vérité, mais quand on les invite, ils ont envie de venir, mais quand ils voient le temple qui n'est pas digne, ils disent que ce n'est pas digne. Dieu, il est le créateur de toutes choses, donc il faut qu'on l'adore dans un temple vraiment digne de lui. Comme David l'a dit, lui, il ne peut pas dormir dans un palais et Dieu, lui, dormir sur une tente. Voilà. Il ne veut pas venir. Mais avec ce temple-là, déjà, je vois que tous ceux que nous allons inviter, déjà, les gens veulent venir parce qu'ils savent que nous avons la vérité. Nous prêchons la vérité biblique. Donc, celui-là, ce nouveau temple-là va amener beaucoup plus de gens. Dieu, à travers ce projet-là, ce temple qui est en train d'être réalisé, nous comprenons que Dieu entend toutes les prières. Et Dieu nous dit que nous ne sommes pas seuls. Il ne nous a pas abandonnés. Voilà, parce qu'il connaît nos besoins. Voilà, il connaît nos besoins. Il a dit, croyez en moi. Et voilà, croyez en moi, ayez confiance en moi. Donc, ça nous fait penser à l'avenir. Que dans l'avenir, quels que soient les soucis que nous allons avoir, Dieu encore va envoyer des gens pour nous aider. Voilà, que nous ne sommes pas dans le désert, seuls dans le désert, mais il y a la présence de Dieu qui est avec nous.
Another first in Côte d'Ivoire, water wells. Recently, Maranatha launched a water program in Côte d'Ivoire. Most of the communities on the outskirts of Abidjan have water systems. However, the water is only available intermittently. So, wherever Maranatha builds a new church, if a well is feasible, we will provide a water source, sometimes with a pump and tank, and sometimes with a hand pump.
Church members are going to provide free water, drinking water, to that community right on the coast where getting fresh water is a bit of a challenge, and they can come, especially on Sabbath, they can hear a Sabbath service while they get their water, and it's bound to attract them.
The first hand pump water well was dedicated in December at the Anan Adventist Church, which was constructed by volunteers in 2019.
One thing I like about the well is that it's exactly what people need. And when you give them what they need, you see them smiling. And when you give them what they need, you can ask them to follow the Christ who provided for this need they had. So may the Lord bless Maranatha, and I know a lot of souls will be won for Christ.
After 10 busy days, the group wrapped up their experience in Côte d'Ivoire. For these veteran volunteers, the return to the mission field was like going home, and it filled them with a spiritual energy that is difficult to quantify. There is little more satisfying than to join church members in song in their new church home, or witness the children's joy as they learn from Christian teachers in their new school classrooms.
When you see the real thing, and you see the real impact these projects have on people, we have a bigger love for those that we see. Going to Ababakwa the other day, we see members in the church, and it's like I've known them all my life. I've never seen them before, but it's like you've known them all your life, and they're brothers and sisters.
In my heart, having grown up in this continent and seen the tremendous need, and knowing that there are some things you can do that have a long impact on many people, is very attractive and meaningful. A school where hundreds of kids go through Adventist education. They probably come from non-Adventist homes, because usually 90% of Adventist students in our schools in Africa are non-Adventist. And so this is a way to effectively take Adventism back to the community. When kids go home singing Adventist songs, when kids go home being able to repeat Bible text, you know you have done a project that has evangelistic and life-changing impacts. And the need in the continent is huge. And coming to help as little as we can is a huge impact.
As a Maranatha volunteer, what becomes clear is that Seventh-day Adventist communities are places of refuge, refreshment, and revival in the urban tangle of Abidjan. People who spend every waking hour of every day trying to survive can find a place to rest and commingle with people of like mind, people of faith. people for whom love and concern is their motivation.
As we look forward to the coming year, I want to encourage all of those of you who have been on trips before, who are thinking about going on trips. There's a larger, bigger opportunity now than there ever has been to make an impact on the world around you. Not just the world at home, but the world afar, countries where people are desperate for the Word of God. They know nothing of a Savior, and with us having the ability and the opportunity to spread that word, I want to encourage you to take that chance. Go somewhere, make a difference.